So I'd like to take viewpoint from Haranand Dada second. So please, Dada, floor is yours. Please tell us about the topic. Dada, please unmute yourself.
Am I audible now, Dada?
Yes, Dada.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, good.
Thank you. I thought I had to speak after respected Professor Govardhan Dada, whom I can see on the screen. But anyways, all was yours. So thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity to share the platform with such great thinkers. Right now, I was very attentively listening to what our respected Vimalanand Dada was talking about. He gave a historical outline of the Indian Renaissance. And he rightly talked about God-centered ideology. He talked about other ideologies like dogma-centered, matter-centered, and self-centered. And he also referred at one point of time to the European Renaissance. Now, since we are here on the RU platform, first of all, I would like to all of you to later on go through the inaugural speech of Sri Shyanmurti Ji Baba on 26th January 1958. As we know, on 27th, RU was founded, 1958. So that was the inaugural speech of Baba. It is the first chapter of the 2 volumes of Renaissance published recently, and it runs into 26 pages. But the core theme of all the philosophies, especially related to Renaissance, has been mentioned by Baba beautifully in that first inaugural maiden discourse, I should say, from the RU platform as president of the Renaissance Universal. So it's a must read for all intellectuals of the world. Now, I'll slightly, if time permits, I don't know, it's already 5:30 and I know everyone is sensitive to the management of time. I'm also sensitive because I worked in uniform for almost 35 years. So if the national flag is to be hoisted at 7:30 in the morning, it means 7:30 and not 7:31. So that was the discipline that was inculcated in us in the process of training. And anyways, so I'll just try to slightly modify my narrative from what Dada has said. Dada mainly focused on the European Renaissance. Now, I'll just mention a few points which I think I should mention here. The Indian Renaissance, let's simply capture the word Renaissance. It means revival. So when we talk about the word, caught the attention of historians with obviously the medieval Renaissance, which started basically from Italy and later on spread to the entire continent of Europe. So what basically happened? First of all, Renaissance was a revival of Greek and Latin learning. So what was the major major thought, initiative, I should say? 2600 years ago, there was a philosopher in Athens, Protagoras, who said, man is the measure of all things. And later on, of course, in India, in the 12th century, the great Bengali poet said, Shobar upore manishotto tar upore kichu nai. So this exact sentence also come in one of the Prabhat Sangeet songs of Baba. But Baba finally overrules it by creating new dimensions, by broadening the spectrum beyond humanity and including animals and plants, the flora and fauna of the old world. So this thought of Protagoras, that humanity is the measure of all things, which was later on quoted by all the philosophers like Aristotle, Plato, and all. So it laid the foundations of one, humanism, that man is the correct person to decide everything, ethics, philosophy, and all his judgments are to be accepted as final. So it laid down the foundations of individualism. It laid down the foundations, obviously, of humanism, that man is the center of this universe. His thought has the final, is final. I mean, it cannot be questioned. So it laid the foundations of rationalism also. And it resulted in a disconnect with the predominance of religious thinking, that is the church in the context of Europe. So at that time, church was not there when Protagoras made this statement. But when medieval Renaissance came, it was a different phenomenon altogether. But let us not forget that even great artists like Leonardo da Vinci, famous for Mona Lisa and the Last Supper, great sculptors like Michelangelo, great poets like Goethe, Petrarch, Boccaccio, and later on, much later, great poets like Chaucer and Shakespeare of English literature. So their entire vision was restricted to the realm of humanity. Of course, in the Indian context, let me again recollect, and for your convenience, let me add that Lord Shiva was called Pashupati, the god of animals. And it was not only theoretical. In the artifacts of Indus Valley civilization, the image of Pashupati has been found. Lord Shiva surrounded by animals, a few animals. That is there in the archives of Indus Valley civilization. So we had a person, we may call him God, but he was definitely a great thinker, Lord Shiva, who showed a radical concern for animals, radical concern for human animals. So we cannot say that in this country, we did not think about animals and the planet Earth as a whole. And as we know, the entire harmony, the entire Sargam, Sur, Sare, Gama, it was coined from the voices of birds and animals, as we all know. And that Sargam had a slight variation in octave in Western music, but the foundation of music across the world is the same, as all lovers of music know. So we had a concern for that. And even when we come to Lord Krishna, he is known as Gopala, the boy who looked after cows. So the association of great men in India was always there with animals and of course with human beings. Of course, the conflict between Aryans and non-Aryans was there in the time of Lord Shiva. That conflict took a different shape when Lord Krishna tried to establish a greater India, which means Mahabharat, greater India, because India was divided into smaller kingdoms and each kingdom was fighting against each other. So that was the formation of greater India. That was the mission of Lord Krishna. But of course, in his first phase as Braj Gopal, as we all know, he gave a new dimension to the cult of devotion. And as Dada mentioned about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and even in South, we had a number of saints who worshipped Lord Krishna, Lord Shiva, Lord Krishna, the Nayanars, the Alvars. We all know them. We all know them. And still, those cults have a very strong base in the entire South, in the entire North also. Now let's move further. That this European Renaissance, we talk about Renaissance, fine, had very severe limitations. When the great reformer Luther visited Rome, he commented that if there is hell anywhere on earth, it is in Rome. These were the comments of Luther, the great reformer of Christianity. Why? Because Renaissance, as they say, European Renaissance put a moratorium on morals. Completely, this liberal wave, individual wave, completely liberalized the society and it turned morally corrupt. Now let's come to India. Since time is short, I'll run briefly through my views. We have a population of say 40 crores of young people. And when we talk about Renaissance, we have to always think that this population of 40 crores out of 140 crores that we have in this country, today's World Population Day, as we all know, so has a major role to play in the present and definitely in the future of this country. Dada referred to the incident of brain drain, that youth, talented people moving out of this country. True, true. But then we have to mobilize, inspire, motivate these 40 crores people, men, young men like Deepeshwarji, whom I can see on the screen, a totally motivated, inspired, and dedicated person. We need hundreds and hundreds of Deepeshwarji in the whole system. People who have that initiative. Now, you might recollect one small discourse of Baba on the role of youth. He talks about two great qualities of youth. First, he says that the vigor of youth is tremendous. They are bombs of energy. This is a sentence, of course, I am using. The vigor of the energy, the dynamism that they have, the adventurism that they have is tremendous, and we have to capitalize on that. Second thing, it talks about a great unique feature of this whole youth population of the world, that is adaptability. I'm referring to Baba's speech on the role of youth. So he talks about vigor, he talks about adaptability. About this adaptability, we need to slightly discuss it at length. What does adaptability mean? Baba says in about 6-7 Prabhat Sangeet songs, uses the word slough, S-L-O-U-G-H, which means this skin of a snake, which is shed off by the snake. And he said that this sloughing of intellect in the psyche is very much required. And he says in at least 6 songs that like a snake, I have sloughed off my old skin, and a new skin is growing on my body. So this sloughing off of old skin, old thoughts, obsolescent technologies, this is a remarkable feature that is there in our youth. That is there in the youth of the entire world. People who are slightly older, maybe veterans, maybe wiser, but the spirit of adventurism, the spirit of acceptance of new ideas is definitely much more stronger in the youth, because they have dreams, they are ambitious, they have more energy, and they can move at a faster pace. But here lies the trap. Baba says the mismatch of rhythm and speed is causing a lot of problems. The mismatch of rhythm and speed. Rhythm means the outer world is having a different rhythm and the inner world is having a different rhythm. As Dada was very succinctly referring to it, that we became too much of inward looking. So that rhythm, the outer world is moving at a very fast pace. Are we trying to keep pace with that outer world of technology? Yes, definitely. Today, this online conference and all the online conferences that we had in this pandemic for the last 1.5 years, they clearly indicate that our organization also is ready for adaptability. Adaptability and acceptance of the new technology. We can also look forward. Today, we don't move around in temples and give sermons. We talk in a different way. We try to behave in a different way. So, coming back to the youth population, which I think I'm trying to focus upon as the vital source of energy and inspiration for the entire country and future. So, this is one great strength of our youth. And there is one more feature that our youth have. They learn faster and they adapt faster, they accept faster, they reject faster, they move faster. So speed is the hallmark of this young generation. It has always been. Speed has been the hallmark. Alexander left this world at the age of 33, and by that time he was already had conquered half the world and called Alexander the Great. Jesus left in his 30s. Swami Vivekananda left in his 30s. All left the world before they reached 40, the age of 40. So many people have changed history in their 30s. We also had a long history of such people. The problem now, where lies the problem? As Dada was trying to refer to, but since he had gone more into the historical dimensions, he devoted much more time to Lord Krishna, Shankaracharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and others, as all of us were listening very attentively to him. Now, the problem with the young generation is that they probably lack what is Samyak Drishti, as referred, Eightfold Path of Buddha. Buddha was much talked about by the respected Dada. Now, Samyak Drishti, as Buddha had explained, had a different meaning. It had a different context. Samyak Drishti, as I see it today, has a different dimension of meaning. It is a balance of three types of vision. In instant vision, which we call apadrishti in Hindi and Sanskrit. Foresight, durdrishti, foresight, and insight, that is antardrishti. These are all three Sanskrit terms we must be familiar with, even across the Vindhyas. So now let us try to analyze. Life is always a series of decisions based on a judicial blend of instant sight, foresight, and insight. Suppose I am driving a car, a truck is racing against me, against my car on the highway. I feel that it may come and, I may face an accident with my car. So I slightly move to the left. If required, I take the service lane. If required, I may put the brakes on and, wait for the truck to pass. This is what? This is instant sight. But life always gives a variety of challenges. An instant sight does not help. Suppose I am a patient of diabetes and I am offered 4 big sweets, rosogullas as they call, the big sponges, white sponges. And my instant sight will say, oh, these are very tasty, brought by my friend here. I must accept and eat. But if I do not use my foresight and insight, I am finished. My sugar will shoot up to 450 and I may land up in a serious problem. So then I use my insight. No. Last time I had taken 4 sweets, I faced this scenario of my sugar shooting up to 400 plus. So then I also use my foresight. My foresight. I recollect many incidents, and then I think, no, I should not take it right now because it's not good for my health. This is the problem that we are facing, the younger generation is facing. The problem, I'm not talking of the generation gap, but this problem our youth have to tackle, because the world of materialism that invites, that captivates, that always calls, look, I'll give you comforts, all the comforts of life. I'll give you in California all the handsome package that you want, all the comforts that probably a poor country like India may not give you. But then we have to think, as a young man, we have to think that if this country has brought us up, do we not own a social responsibility towards our society, our country? That's why individualism, which ultimately resulted in hedonism, as Dada mentioned, and liberalism, what happened? Collectivism was a serious casualty due to this individualistic thought. I'm the center of the universe. In more than 50 songs of Prabhat Sangeet, Baba has said, use the word asmita, dambha, ahamika. And, in one song he says, these are like thorns of a crocodile. Kumbharir kata. Kumbharir is a Sanskrit word for crocodile. So he says, ego, self-centrism, narcissism, selfishness, they are like thorns of a crocodile. They all not only make you look very ugly, they make you look very ferocious, repulsive, and people try to stay away from you. Like, say, if a person is very rich, does not do anything for society, people will say, he's very rich, fine, he is a billionaire, but what has he done for our society? Nothing. But if a small person like Sonu Sood goes out of the way to help people with his meager resources and collected revenues, people make him a hero. So we have to move from this individualistic thought to the collectivist thought. And when Baba talks about Atma Mokshartham Jagat Hitaya, I think the focus is more on Jagat Hitaya. This is my perspective of thinking, because he always said, Pariprashnen, he always used that template of Bhagavad Gita, Pranipaten Pariprashnen Sevya. The terminus was what? Sevya. Be great through your sadhana and what? Service. So that service segment highlights what? The collectivism, the focus on collectivism, the focus on society. Why he revived a shloka of Rig Veda, Sangachadvam Samvadadvam. We recite every week in every collective sadhana because it reminds of something, that we are a society. We have to move together. Sangachadvam Samvadadvam. We have to speak the same language. We have to share the same ideology. We have to be on the same page. Now this, I was talking about vision. So this balanced vision, everybody, especially the younger generation, they have to develop, nurture, nourish, and cultivate in their personality. Every person, if he does not go for a judicious blend of foresight, insight, and instant sight, he will take wrong decisions in life. Maybe money gives immediate comforts, but long-term discomforts. You know, when Yagyavalkya told to his wife, as we have read in Upanishads, you know, when he wanted to go for sannyas, he called both his wives. Katyayani said, no, whatever you give to me, I am happy with that. But the other wife, what did she say? Well, will this wealth of yours bring happiness to me? No, it will not bring happiness to me. So I don't need your wealth. I want to learn from you your knowledge. And then the great philosopher, who was supposed to be one of the greatest philosophers of Upanishads, before 6th century BC, before Lord Buddha came. So he transmitted his knowledge to his wife. So from this individualistic thought, everybody, including our youth of 40 crores, I'm talking in the context of India, has to move to collective thought. And one more very important thing I would like to highlight, that now we have to customize and think according to the context. We have to contextualize and customize. This is very clearly laid down in Anand Sutram 5.14. When Baba says in Anand Sutram, chapter 5, as we know, deals with the philosophy of growth. And he says, first he says in 5.8, Vachitriam Prakrit Dharma Samanam na Bhavishyati. Diversity is the law of nature. There shall not be any uniformity. And then he amplifies and makes his point very clearly. He says all physical, metaphysical, and spiritual resources must see maximum utilization. Charmopayoga, that is the word he uses. And then he again qualifies it. It has to vary with time, place, and person. Vary with time, place, and person. See the beauty. What he says in 5.14 Anand Sutram, he implements. He revives the old Rigvedic shlok of Sangachadvam, puts it in a new social context, and that whenever Margis meet, they must remember Sangachadvam. He revives another Rigvedic shloka, Om Madhu Vataraitaya Madhu Ksharanti Sindhava. Again, this is from Rigveda. What does it mean? Honey prevails everywhere. In the sky, in the ocean, in the wind, everywhere it is full of sweetness. Sweetness. So life is full of sweetness. Shobar upore roye geche, tobo shashwat bhalobasha. The entire philosophy of RU, New Humanism, is based on love. Love. Love which is rational in nature. So Baba said, the rule of rationality must prevail. I have come to the next point. This was a favorite sentence of Baba, the rule of rationality must prevail. And repeatedly it has come in number of songs of Prabhat Sangeet, that you have to move out of dogma, as rightly highlighted by Dada just now. So this is another problem of rationality versus emotionality. For the entire humanity, since we are speaking from the RU platform, I think we must mention this thought of Baba. There is a maxim in English that when emotions run high, rationality jumps through the window. As we know, emotionality, all these geo-sentiments, socio-sentiments, they are all sentiments, but they are different from devotional sentiments. So Baba says, in life, you have to adopt a very rational approach. Very rational approach. So emotions have a role to play in life, definitely. And these days, everybody is talking about emotional quotient. IQ, the fashion of talking about IQ is outdated now. Everybody is talking about EQ. That's fine. But then that emotional quotient has a rational dimension. All philosophers of psychology, all psychologists who have worked on emotion, and I was going through the Encyclopedia of Emotion published by the Oxford University. They have said that emotion always has a cognitive element in it. You first think and then you emotionalize. For example, the way I talk to, say, my son, if I am angry, I cannot talk to my boss. There I know that if I behave in that funny way, which I may behave with my children, I may be fired or I may get a negative letter, negative entry in my appraisal, whatever. So emotional have is always associated with cognitive appraisal. So this also is an area which is full of mines, and our youth have to demine this area. Demine this. We have to do this because trading over mine will only result in blasts. Our youth lacks, patience, perseverance, because they are too ambitious in this matter-centered world. In this self-centered world, their ambitions run high. They are like an ocean with tides. But the ocean, after immediately when the tide comes, the ebb follows. Baba said life is systolic, heart, even a heart, diastolic, systolic, it expands, it pauses, then it pumps out blood, it takes blood inside. So all movements are rhythmic in life. In the entire world, in the entire creation, all movements are systolic. So, that's why Baba talks in the laws of social dynamics that after every movement, there has to be a pause. So our youth have to remember this. The speed is fine, but pause is equally important. And Baba has said, if you are running very fast, can you answer a basic question of arithmetic? I tell you to run at full speed that you can run. And then I ask you, please calculate 24 into 14. You cannot do it. Because, for every such serious mental activity, be it meditation, be it studies, be it contemplation, self-evaluation, this is required. So the balance of emotionality and rationality has to take place apart from the judicious balance of insight, foresight, and instant sight. This is very important for everybody, especially for our youth, who have to be the torch bearers of the entire new wave of thought that Baba has generated through his philosophy. One more important point I would like to mention, time is running out, and I think Dipeshwar Dada must be thinking of reminding me, but I'll wind up, Dipeshwar Dada, I assure you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dada.
Last point, I'm not talking about the negative features. I'm just telling that we have to guard our steps in areas which are mined areas, which have landmines across. So these are landmines. Strong, powerful ambition, strong, powerful emotions are landmines. If we don't rationalize and proceed, we may suffer a blast. We may suffer an ambush, and we may lose our entire dreams. So speed and rhythm, the whole lecture, this whole seminar was on Prama. How we can regain the equilibrium. And right now we are discussing psychic equilibrium, how we can regain the psychic balance. But most important thing about the youth is courage. Baba has mentioned it in a few discourses, that courage is what is the strength of every sadhak, because struggle is the essence of life, as he says in a number of his Anand Vanis, struggle is the essence of life. And he says, even in Anand Sutram, he says that all obstacles open the path of success. Badha sa Yushmana Shakti. Every Badha is a Yushmana Shakti. Every obstruction is a helping force. Sevyam Sthapati Lakshe. The person is put at the goal. It takes the person nearer to the goal. This is the role of obstruction. So life is full of encumbrances. So the courage which is required to succeed in life for any ideology, ideology will not succeed by itself. There have to be torch bearers, pioneers of ideology, harbingers of that ideology, especially the youth. Of course, they will do it under the guidance of, uh, older warriors, the veterans. So life has to be a mix of what? Veterans and venturers. The venturers are the youth. The veterans are the esteemed persons like our Secretary General P.U. Dada or Professor Govardhan Dada. So they will guide the youth in which direction they have to move. And the youth will have courage, energy, vitality, the adaptability factor, which probably we at a later stage, we do not have. Say, initially when we were offered laptop by the government of India, we were a bit panicky. How to handle this laptop? It's a problem for us. We had stenos, personal secretaries, they used to do all those typing and everything. But government said, no, it's your personal thing you have to handle. Then slowly you had to learn what is Word, what is PowerPoint, PPT, and if required, what is Excel sheet, how to prepare it. So everybody has to learn something. This adaptability is much faster in the youth. So today my focus was on the youth like Deepeshwar Dada and number of others whom I can see on the screen. I don't leave out the older, wiser people because, as I said, society has to be a combination of veterans and venturers. One will give wisdom, the other will give energy. Consciousness will come from Brahma Purush and energy will come from Prakriti. If I can draw a parallel, it's too far a parallel, but Purush Prakriti, force is blind, so it must have the support of consciousness to create something. So creation of cosmos was a big thing, but propagation of ideology of Anand Marg is an equally challenging task we have to accept. Lastly, I'll conclude, many Prabhat Singh Sangeet songs, we tend to, take it casually. I'm sorry to say that, but I'll refer to one song, 1226, 1226. It provides the roadmap of the entire thoughts that have been presented today. I just mentioned, I'll take 2 minutes and wind up. Baba says in 1226, I'm just going for the English translation. He says, charging the world with vitality, vitality underlined, and singing the melody of the new underlined. Move ahead, underlined, and merge into cosmic tranquility. This is the meaning of the first stanza of 1226. Then he says, beautiful song, accepting the reality of the world. As Dada said, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. This will not work. Brahma Satyam Jagatapi Satyam Apekshikam, as Baba clarified in Anand Sutram. So you have to accept the reality that the world exists. You can't say, no. I will take care of myself. Now, that will not work. So accepting the reality of the world, see what Baba says next. Valuing the psychic needs. See the beauty of Prabhat Sangeet. Every word is a, Kohinoor, diamond. He says, accepting the reality of the world, valuing the psychic needs of every person. Keep watching. See what beauty. Keep watching. Jagte raho. Keep watching what is happening outside and understand the grace of God. That Baba said that 18.64 Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18.64 is the ultimate quintessence of Bhagavad Gita. Sarvadharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. He says, understand the grace of God in 1226. And then he says beautifully, rejecting the old and worn out slough the term I use, nirmukh. It's a Sanskrit term, the skin of the snake. Rejecting the old and worn out slow, open both your eyes in illumination. See then, accept the ever effulgent consciousness. Upanishad says, Pragyanam Brahma. So Baba says, you accept that you are a conscious state. Keep your eyes open, keep watching, and see the beauty of the last stanza. I was just flabbergasted. It is marvelous. Baba says, with the help of illumination, peep through the adjoining words.
Dada, we are not getting your sound.
He says, through your windows, light is coming, you see outside what is happening. And extend both your hands today. Matlab, extend your hands, that is, you offer your love and salutation to everybody who wants to join you for this cause. So these 10 commandments of 1226, I think are the charter of duties, is the roadmap for every young man today, for every unmarried today. And we are all committed to that. That's all from my side. I have to join some other Chandigarh sector seminar, program. So I think if there are questions, I would like to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dada. Thank you for your time, and very emphasized on youth. So definitely we will try.